Hi guys, welcome back to Project Heroquest. This is episode 2, so I'd like to talk to you about some of the miniatures I've painted. These haven't been put on the Perspex bases as yet, so I'm going to be doing that as the last stage of all the production. But I'd like to talk to you first off about these guys. So these are the first set that I feel are being completed paint-wise, and that is the Undead. So first off, we've got this guys here. So 4 of these. These are the skeleton warriors. You can see all the bits and bobs there. Look at my massively huge arms stretching out just to show you there. So these have all been painted with a mixture of Citadel paint and Army Painter paints. I find the Army Painter paints can be quite thick with the pigments, so they do need watering down, but watered down using the Lamia medium from the Citadel range rather than water, as I find that helps the pigments just spread evenly rather than thinning out too much. I've also used a lot of inks on these because, quite frankly, it's easier than painting highlights. So much easier. Agrax Earthshade and Known Oil, love them. But yeah, so that's the skeletons. So I've got 4 of those. These are the zombies with a big axe meat cleavery thing there. It'll turn around. Just spotted I haven't painted the stitches on the back of the zombies' coats. Weirdly, as a child and right up until I actually painted the models, I thought those lumpy bits on the back of the models were the spine. And I thought, how would they see the spine through the coat? That would make no sense. But it turns out it is some detailed stitching, so just spotted I need to do those. So thank you very much, YouTube. I could have done that before showing you all the models, but there we go. And then we've also got these guys, which are the mummies. See them there. So I used a variety of different techniques with these guys. The skeletons, pretty basic. I gave them an all-over undercoat of Ashabti bone, a quick wash with Agrax Earthshade, and then a dry brush of a lightened Ashabti bone, a little bit of bleached bone, and just a touch of skull white. I didn't want them to be pristine white skeletons. I wanted to have them slightly bony, earthy, kind of gross look to them. So that's worked out quite nicely. With the mummies, I did again a base coat of Ashabti bone, then used Known Oil to wash all over, and then a very heavy dry brush with plain white to give the bandages a different look to the skeletons. But I wanted to keep the detail of the wrappings, so that's come through really nicely. And then the zombies, which again received an Ashabti bone undercoat, and then I used a 50-50 mix of the Army Painter green shade with Lamia medium, just to really just thin it out a little bit, because I didn't want it to be green like orc flesh kind of green, but I wanted that rotted flesh look. So did that, same treatment as for the exposed flesh on the mummies here, and then a quick dry brush from a very old bottle of rotting flesh from the Citadel range, which I managed to resurrect using Lamia medium and a lot of shaking. Years of being single have given me quite a good shaking arm, so that has finally come in handy. With the hair for these guys, I just did a grey with a quick wash of Known Oil. Didn't want to go too much, I just wanted it to look dank and scraggly, so did that. And then with the metals on these guys here, it was a darker chainmail coat of metallic. A quick hit with Known Oil, a quick dry brush with just a lighter shade. I can't remember exactly which metallic silver it was, I've got loads of them. And then just a little hit with the Agrax Earthshade just to dull it down and make it look a little bit grimy, but not like it's been covered in the sort of old-fashioned blood splats I've seen people paint on, which personally, in my opinion, just seems to wreck the models a little bit. But there we go. So those are the painted guys so far. I really enjoyed painting these miniatures. It was a nicer form of batch painting because you could see the results straight away, and because there wasn't so many of them, you didn't get bored halfway through, as I'm finding with green skins. It's just green on green on green. The models themselves, really nicely sculpted. Some really nice details on there, good enough that when you put the wash on there, it sank in there and really just sort of brought to life the features on the faces, especially on the mummies and the zombies as well. Looking at them, I might put a little touch of black in their mouths just to darken them a little bit, and maybe just hit the eye sockets just with a little dab of purple wash. But I'm still not too sure. Maybe do a dark blue wash in there as well. I'm still not too sure on that. So when I said they were all finished painted, it turns out in fact they're not. But as any miniature painter knows, models are never ever completed. You can always do one more bit. And it's getting that fine line of putting the brush down and saying, no, they're done now, that's the difficult bit. Preparation work I had to do on these. I had to remove them from the bases, which I had to do for obviously all of the models from the Heroquest range. And that was frankly an absolute ball ache. It involved clippers, hacksaws, razors, and I even had to buy a purchased Dremel just to sand the feet down that last little bit. That took a long time, and the clippings go everywhere. So if you are planning on doing this project yourself, also invest in some safety goggles, which I genuinely did, and they pay for themselves, as I got a couple of hits on the goggles whilst I was clipping away, which could have been pretty nasty. As for the sort of trimming up of the models, the biggest part of them was to sort of make them really ready to paint, was just trimming off a little bit of flash. The undead models, I don't know whether they came from a different batch to the rest of the others, which I'll talk about later, but they didn't seem to have much in the way of defects with injection points or mould lines, which really was quite a joy to see in a model. Some of the others, like especially the orcs and the femurs, they had mould lines and injection points coming out of their ears. I did not enjoy getting those models ready for painting. But these guys were an absolute gem. As I was clipping them off the bases, I was worried about losing legs, feet, things like that, but it turns out these are actually quite sturdy. I don't know whether the different colour plastics have different densities or properties. I found that the lighter coloured plastics, like the beiges and the reds, came off no problem. The greens were very brittle, and the grey ones were very similar to the normal Games Workshop sprue models. They had a bit of give in them and were quite forgiving when you're trimming away or trying to sand down flash and things like that. But altogether, these are the first 8 guys to be batch painted. Thoroughly enjoyed painting these. I really did put a bit of thought into the colour scheme to get them looking as they did, and I personally think they've paid off. So once these are on the Perspex bases, I think they're going to look really nice. So thanks for watching. That was part 1 of the painting process, episode 2 I guess. Next show or video I'll put up about the Chaos Warriors, and maybe introduce you to my little painting station, show you where I do my work, and the current Carnage, which is my works in progress sort of list. So quite a few. I don't like finishing projects, but one day. But there we go. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.